Hi, welcome back. This is Haas Photography. Today we're going to show you how to do some high-end retouching on skin textures and whatnot, dodging and burning, and a little bit of painting in order to get that high fashion look on people's faces, on the models and whatnot. So what I'm going to do, right now I have a base image. What I want to do a little bit of dodging and burning is I'm going to add a layer. I'm going to go to new layer. I'm going to label this dodge and burn. I'm going to make the mode overlay. I'm going to fill it with 50% gray. Click OK. So that's going to be my dodge and burn layer. So what I want to do is I'm going to click on my brush tool, B, and I'm going to make my opacity 10. I'm going to click off my transfer, and I'm going to make my flow about somewhere around 11, 12, somewhere around there. What I want to do is I want to make my foreground colors the default. So I click D to make them black and white. And I'm going to click X to toggle back and forth. So white is my foreground color. And with a soft brush, you see my hardness is at 0. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of the darker areas and I'm going to lighten them up. I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit more and we can kind of just start dodging and burning. We're going to dodge. As you can see, we're kind of lightening this little dark area right here, which I feel is just a little too dark. And we'll just keep kind of working. And you really want to work slow on this and build this up so you can visualize. Around the eye here, we'll kind of lighten up this little kind of dark patches. What we're basically trying to do is just even out the skin tones. A certain area where it's dark and blotchy. We can see it's a little dark right in there. Slowly lighten it up. This real dark area right in here, try lightening that up a little bit more. That looked like it was a little too much. And just kind of visualize certain areas that feel dark to you and just slowly start building them up so they don't look so blotchy. This area is right up here, kind of in this dark shadow area. I'll lighten that up just a little bit too. And if it feels like it's moving too fast, you can always just kind of turn your flow down just a little bit. And once again, just kind of working on the areas that you feel like need to be lightened just a little bit. Like this area right in here, kind of blotchy, so we'll kind of dodge this area. And by working on this gray overlay layer, what you end up doing is you end up retaining all the skin detail. And this little dark area right here will kind of lighten this just a little bit. Maybe get in just a little bit tighter here so we can see. And if you make a mistake, you can always just step back. I use Command or Control Z on a PC, Command Z on a Mac. They just step you through if you feel like you're getting a little too far and you want to step yourself back. And this works great for just about anything. If you really want to dodge and burn and really maintain the actual texture that you want to keep instead of just painting. I'll lighten up this area underneath the eye a little bit, just so it's not so dark. Maybe right in here, get a little bit smaller. This little line right here underneath her eye. Sometimes zooming in and out, give yourself a little bit different perspective. Just kind of lean back, look at it again. Let's go as black as a foreground color now, and let's kind of darken some of the areas. I'm going to keep the same settings and just kind of work this little area that's a little bit too light. Maybe right in here. Right there on the eye. Just kind of go slow. Build things up. And let's go back to white and just kind of do this area just a little bit more. Now this one area right here, this little dot, I'm just going to go back to my background layer, and what I'm going to do is I will just use my spot healing brush, kind of get down a little bit small, and we'll just kind of get rid of that. A couple of those other little bigger spots. Okay. Now we're going to put another layer on top of this, and we're going to paint on the skin now. My brush tool, B. I'm going to put my opacity back to 100%. I'm going to click on my flow and maybe keep my flow rate about 9. I'm going to click on my transfer. Now if I go to my brush tip shape over here, my hardness is going to be at 0. I want to have my spacing on and have it around 20%. And right now I'm also painting with a Wacom tablet. So I do have my pen pressure set to on. And what I'm going to do is also paint with a zero hardness. I'm just going to kind of option click on certain parts of the face. And I'm just going to lightly paint just to kind of give a little bit of smoothness to the actual skin. I'm going to click, kind of just brush that area and make it a little bit bigger. It doesn't have to be a lot. Sometimes just a little bit of smoothing. Just kind of get rid of some of the little rough areas. Smooth out that chin area just a little bit. Get rid of some of the dark area right here and just kind of lighten that. The nose area, sometimes just bringing down a little bit more of a highlight right there, blending that, and also blending the side of the nose right in here. And you can also use this to lighten. So if I click here and paint in this area, we're just going to lighten that little shadow area just a little bit. You don't want to get rid of all of the actual skin and the wrinkles, small little bit of wrinkles and whatnot, but you can use it just to kind of soften it just a little. Maybe right in there. And we have a little bit of a wrinkle right there, which we'll have to fix, but just keep working. Option clicking in the areas that we want to paint to sample the color. And let's kind of lighten this area just a little bit more too. Just clicking on that area, just kind of lighten it just a little bit. Just blend this area right here just a little. And zoom out just a little just to take a look at this. Seems to be a little bit of an edge right in here. Just blend that a little bit. And let's go back to the nose area right here and just kind of darken that just a little. I know a lot of people use the frequency separation method. I do use that occasionally, but I seem to have more control or like doing this better. As you can tell, it doesn't really take that long to really, do basically the same thing. Okay. Now if we on and off these two layers, we can see with our dodge and burn, we kind of went through and lightened up the darker areas, darkened down some of the brighter areas, and that helps a lot just by doing that. And then we'll click on the skin painting layer, blank layer, and as you can tell, we've pretty much smoothed the skin out quite a bit. And it looks pretty good. All right, And the next thing we're going to do, and anytime I paint on any image, I'm also going to go through and add a layer of noise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, click on new layer. Basically the same thing that we just kind of did with the dodge and burn. And I'm going to make this noise, make it overlay, fill it with 50% gray, click OK. Now I'm going to go over to filter, noise, add noise. And right now it's set to 3. And you can do back and forth kind of what you want to do. We can try 2. 3 looks a little too much. 2 looks pretty good. You want to make it Gaussian and you want to make it monochromatic. And what that'll do is add a little bit of texture to the areas that you paint. Click OK. Now we're also going to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and add just a little bit of blur to the actual noise layer. And you can play with this. Obviously, if you go a little bit too much, you want to go, if I did a 2 amount of noise, I'm going to go 0.2 blur. Well, let's go 0.3 just to give it just a little bit more. And click OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click off these layers for a second. I'm just going to go to my background layer and I'm going to use my spot healing brush and I'm just going to work this area just a little bit where that little wrinkle on her face was, and then I'm going to click back on there. Just kind of get rid of that. I also can tell that right now I have a little bit of a redness right here. And some other areas, well, I guess the rest of it looks pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put another layer, blank layer right here. I'm going to make that layer color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my brush tool again. Let's label that color. I'm going to hit my brush tool again. I'm going to option click right here. And I'm just going to paint with that color, just kind of make this skin tone area more the color of the skin so it doesn't look so red. Okay. Next, because we have a dodge and burn layer here, what we can do is we can use that to go in and brighten the eyes, the pupils right here. So on the dodge and burn layer again, I'm going to hit my brush tool. I'm going to set my opacity to 10. I'm going to click off my transfer. I'm going to add just a little bit more flow. And with the soft brush again. Oops. Get rid of that for a second. We need to go to deselect, or D, hit D, to make your foreground and background colors black and white. And I'm going to click X to toggle to make my foreground color white. And we'll get in nice and tight. And we'll just kind of start dodging a little bit of the pupils here so they kind of pop a little bit more. Just kind of highlight those a little bit. And this little area of the eye, which seems to be a little bit dark, we'll kind of dodge and burn that out, or dodge that just a little bit, dodge a little bit of the darkness in there. Kind of brighten it up just a little bit. And maybe in this eye just a little too. Just to pop the whites just a little bit more, so they don't look so splotchy either. I hit 2 on my keyboard to make opacity 20 and just go just a little bit faster right there. Okay. What we can do now is we can also still dodge and burn and make some of these highlights pop out a little bit more. Or we can also do that on a separate layer. We can make a blank layer. Let's make it overlay with our brush tool. And this time with a little bit more of a sharper brush. And we'll turn up our opacity. What we're going to do is we'll just kind of strike some of these areas, just kind of bring out some of the highlights on the lips. Maybe around here just a little bit. Let's bring our opacity back down just a little. We can off and on that layer. Just a little bit of highlights on there. What we can also do is we can go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we can blur those strokes just a little bit. Doesn't have to be a much. Let's go back to the dodge and burn, and let's just lighten up her lips just a little bit more in some of the dark areas. I'm going to hit my brush tool, hit my opacity back down to 10, my flow at about 13, and maybe just kind of lighten and smooth out the areas of the lips just a little bit more. Just get rid of some of the darker spots in there. Maybe right in here. So as you can see, you can do a lot of stuff with this dodge and burn and just kind of clean up some of these little areas that kind of look splotchy. And I can go back, toggle to X, and let's darken this little area right in here. It looks like a little bit of a line. It just kind of looks a little bit out of place, maybe right in there. Maybe we just kind of darken that little line right here. Maybe right there, maybe right there. You can also kind of maybe outline the lips just a little bit darker right there. And let's put those into a folder and just label that retouch. We can off and on see what we've done. Now, also with the overlay layer that we have here, I'm going to label that overlay. And this one is our paint layer. We can hit our brush tool. White is the foreground color. I'm just going to bring that up just a little bit, soften my brush. I'm just going to add some highlights and stuff to the hair area. You can just kind of bring up some of these little curls and stuff, just make it a little bit more noticeable. Really just kind of bring them out. Add some highlights. And off and on, you can just kind of see just a little bit of, bring those areas up just a little, have a little fun with it. We could also do it in certain areas, these little flowers. Maybe just kind of bring a little bit in there. A bit of highlights, a little bit of something there. Maybe we just bring out a little bit of that, make that pop just a little, make that pop just a little. Careful not to kind of go into the background, but put a little bit of highlights and stuff on some of these little flowers right here. Okay. Now, we can also do just a little bit of curves, just kind of darken some of the areas just a little bit, give it a little bit more shape. I think I'd like to put this side of her face into shadow just a little bit. So I'm going to do that with a curves layer. I'm going to go to my curves. And what I want to do is I'm going to make my curves layer a luminosity layer. That way, when I adjust the curves, it doesn't change the color, it just changes the brightness of the actual image. And I'm just going to add just a little bit of darkness to the image. So in the layer mask, I want to make my foreground color black, so toggle with X. Then I'm going to hit Alt Delete, fill my layer mask, and then I'm going to paint with my brush tool with white, X, toggle to get your foreground color white. And we'll kind of keep that somewhat low and just kind of just throw a little bit of darkness maybe back in here overall, maybe back up in here. Just give it a little bit more lighting direction. A little bit more shadow. Let's bump this up just a little bit so we can go just a little faster. Keep the shadow on this side of her nose, a little bit deeper in there. Try to maintain a little bit of this highlight right here that's on her cheek. Bring this into a little bit more deeper shadow, kind of right in here. And that looks good. All right. That concludes the video tutorial for the day. If you like this, subscribe to my videos, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.